All right, we're back. Hopefully this time we'll crush all the technical difficulties and be back, and we'll be able to bring Paul online. Just waiting for him to comment, and as soon as he does, he's gonna be online. So just waiting for his comment. Let's see if he got anything. I'm just gonna pin this comment. Here we go. Post. Pin. Paul, now I can see him. Here we go. Paul, you should be getting an invite, and you should be in with us very soon. Yeah, I see you ready. I've sent you an invite. You should be having an invite on your phone. I see a camera, right? Bring Paul to camera. Why can't? Paul, are you getting an invite? Because I see that you have a camera now. You're all set and ready. Are you getting an invite from me to come online? Or you can send a request to join me. So if you go below your video, you should see a few buttons, and one of them would be to see an invite to come online. No invite, yeah. Facebook, you're not being cool today. Wants to be in your video, okay. Approve, there we go. This should do it. If this doesn't, we're gonna have a big problem with Facebook. We're adding Paul. Paul's gonna be here, dude. Guys, this is gonna be big. Connecting. He should be online very soon. Here we go. The man of the hour is here, finally.
Wow, okay, a lot of technical issues, but we got
a lot of technical difficulties, you know. I mean, I'm gonna throw a fit at Facebook. If this didn't work out, I would lose my shit on Facebook. That was my plan.
All right, here we are. Let's go. There's my wedding ring.
Awesome. Good to know. Good to know. So guys, I don't think so I need to give an introduction for the man, because everybody who's watching it, they know who Paul is. If you don't, I think you just need to go and type his name on Google and you'll find out who he is. He's been featured on Dr. Phil. He is a true celebrity and a very humble man. Let's start with that. So Paul, in the interest of time, I know you're super busy. You're doing some really amazing things, which we'll be talking about today. I don't want to take a lot of your time, I know, because you're doing something very impactful. But the reason for stealing a little bit of your precious time today was to actually help viewers, help the world, and I see a lot of people are watching right now, to unravel and show your journey from, as the title says, the world famous playboy to a committed husband. I believe you're a father now, right?
That's right. Yeah, my daughter's 8 months old, and she's sleeping in the nursery in the room next door. So we got to keep our voice down. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll make sure I'll try to do that. I could be loud sometimes. So congratulations on that. So on that note, if you don't mind, why don't we jump into the question? I think that's going to give tremendous value to the people who are watching it, because you know I can give my perspective, but your perspective is unique and the only one in the world.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So you know, as we were discussing, Paul, you're a world-renowned dating coach who has been hosted on TV shows like Dr. Phil. So you're super famous, and the whole world knows about your success in the dating world, in the seduction world. And so now you're settled. You have an 8-month-old daughter. You've been settled with your wife for quite a few years, from what I know. What were the two big realizations that made you settle down from that playboy lifestyle where you had a lot of women in your life to now you have a family, you're a committed man with a daughter, and now you're a father?
That's a good question. Thank you. By the way, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Definitely.
So we'll get into this new course I'm running, but I just explained this in depth in a course that's called No Man Left Behind, where I take guys from playboy, the guys who want to into relationships and marriage and fatherhood. I basically journey in a lot of detail. And there's sort of three main reasons that the writing was on the wall, why the playboy lifestyle sort of, I could see that it was, it had a time limit on it. One of them was my friends. Can you hear me, Suleiman?
I can hear you. Absolutely, I can.
Suleiman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Absolutely, I can.
One was that in my early to mid 30s, a lot of my friends who formed sort of my core group, my core intimate group of brothers, let's say in New York. And then all of us would date, and we would, girls would come and go, but I had this consistency among my men, and we would go out to dinner, and we would travel, and we would go out at night, and we would share stories, successes and failures, promotions. One by one, they fell away. So they got married, or they moved in with a girlfriend, or they left town, or moved to maybe shacked up with a girl and moved to a cheaper part of town for more space. So you start to lose your men, and then it becomes quite a lonely endeavor because you're having no consistency with the girls. There's a churn and burn with the women. So that was the first thing. I started to see my core group of guys sort of settling down, and I realized, wow, once they settle down, my lifelong friends are going to be harder to access. They're not really available so much because they then start to have children and stuff. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, when I looked at sort of my catalog of conquests, if I'm crass about it, I thought, well, I could stay in the game another 5 or 10 years and double my book or triple my book. But for what? I had already had all these experiences. I didn't really see, I wanted something new. Do I want to spend another 10 years of these precious years, 35 to 45, for example, just doubling or tripling my number? Was that a good use of time? And I decided it wasn't a good use of my life. You only live once, I mean, you can believe in reincarnation, and the third reason is that once the men fall away, you need a witness in your life. It's a very lonely thing for a man to proceed without anyone invested in his day-to-day success. Look, your parents eventually will die, and I actually have friends of mine who are in their 40s who are bachelors, and they lean very heavily on their parents, in particular their mothers, and they're like 43-year-old men, 45, who spend a lot of time because that's where they get the consistency and the witness to their life, and because they don't have it amongst their men, because the men are not available. And the girls, if you're churning through a lot of girls, there's no one's invested. You spend a few weeks with her and she's gone, let's say. So I think that's one of the major reasons. I think it's the human soul needs someone to share highs and lows, promotion at work, projects that you launch, trips you take. If you have a hard time finding recruits to do that with you after the age of about 30 or 35, because other people's lives are committed.
Very insightful.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's going to add a lot of value to guys who are especially in their late 20s, right? Or in their early 20s, they think about, doing this forever, and that's how they're going to live. So I think it's a big realization, especially, coming from a person like me. Oh yeah, it has a little bit of merit, but coming from a person like you who's had so much abundance and success, and now you have settled, and with those logical reasons, and I believe you go much deeper in your course in all about this, right? How did that change happen, and what does that journey look like in No Man Left Behind? I believe so, right?
So, sorry, we broke up a little bit. You were asking me.
No, what I was saying is, I believe you go a little bit deeper in your course, No Man Left Behind, when you talk about all these transitions and the complications of this transition, right?
Yeah. Okay. So so what's your question? Let me move over here so I can hear you better. Maybe the reception's better. Well, ask your question again. What is the course about, or what are you asking?
No, I was making a comment about your course, and now I'm gonna jump into the second question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that okay with you? Yeah, okay, let's do that. So I see that your relationship is very, very blissful, happy. You're excited. You're doing the things that you enjoy. Of course, you're not one of those guys who's like got married and started going downhill. You're going uphill still after getting married, which is amazing. So why do you think, I've seen this in my life in the past. I've seen this in my family. I've seen this amongst my friends. I see this every day. Why do you think that after 2 to 3 years, the relationship is exciting and starts falling apart? And so who usually drops the ball in a marriage? What do you think usually happens? You coach a lot of guys, you consult with a lot of them. And why do you think the relationship starts going downhill after the honeymoon phase? Like why do you think that is happening every day in our lives?
Well, a couple of reasons. I mean, it's a little hard to generalize about all relationships. Each couple is unique and has their own set of problems. But I think a couple things. I'll say three things. One is that I don't think men screen effectively for marriage. It's a very different thing when you're dating to screen for, let's say, sex or a hot girl versus screening for a mother of your child. And one of the things I talk about in No Man Left Behind is that actually most guys don't realize this, but when you're screening for a wife, you're screening for a family member, like another
Mm,
family member, just like a brother or a sister or a parent or a grandparent. It's that critical to your,
mm,
obviously, but there a lot of guys are scanning using a dating template like big tits or hot ass or whatever, like, which
mm,
actually the human brain, you normalize to aesthetics very quickly. That has nothing to do with the quality of the relationship. That's why it burns out after the honeymoon. So I talk a lot about, on my course, I talk a lot about cosmetics versus character. Cosmetics is
mm,
what you notice, but character is what makes you stay with a girl. Good character. So
mm.
she is reliable, she's thoughtful, she is responsible. A lot of girls out there that look good don't have those qualities, and so they can become very problematic in a relationship. It's high drama, very dysfunctional. And, and the other thing I'll say, so that's the second, cosmetic versus character. The first is that they're not screening right, and the third thing is that I think a lot of people bring a lot of ego into a marriage, and they can't. I've had to develop a lot or evolve a lot in my marriage, and there's no place for ego because you need two people, especially when you have a child, like constantly. Uh, and I still can revert to being pretty self-involved or self-centered, but that doesn't work in a marriage. You have like an infant that needs to live. You've got rent to pay. There's a lot of logistics to manage, and if someone's like very thinks they're the best and can never handle criticism or adjust their behavior, then they're just going to walk. I think a lot of guys who are good at game have a very, like I did, a very rigid mentality. And so as soon as they feel offended a few times, they leave, and of course, when you break something as serious as marriage, there's consequences. So I think people bring ego into it, and they can't handle it, the ego deflation of a relationship.
mm. No, that's key. And you know what? You've hit the nail on the head. Ego is big with men, especially who are good at seduction. Their ego is off the charts, right? And I think that creates a
Yeah.
lot of problems in relationship. No, absolutely correct. No, thanks for sharing that. Paul, with
What's
that, can you jump
interesting, just
into?
hold on
Go
real
ahead.
quick. One interesting thing is, in my course, I talk about how if you're very good at dating, you might actually struggle in a relationship. A guy who's very good at sleeping with a lot of girls and having tough terms and being sort of an asshole and stuff, he's going to really struggle when he chooses one particular woman and has to soften and accommodate this woman and have his own needs um, sort of subordinated to someone else, because in the moment her needs are more important or the baby's needs. Men, guys in the game community are not ready for that. It's a big
Mm,
adjustment.
yeah, and I think which is exactly why a lot of those guys who actually they are in game and they're wanting to actually settle with a girl and they've struggled over and over. I think for them it's going to be so valuable to actually seek your help because you've been on the other side of the spectrum and you've been the king on the other side of the spectrum, and now you are in a committed relationship and you're very happy. So I think they need that guidance because we don't get that guidance from our homes. I mean, I didn't get that guidance from my father. We usually don't get it in our homes or in our families. So I think we really need people like you who can hold our hand and take us through that phase and process, right?
I appreciate that, and I really want to say thank you for identifying um, my sort of USP, which I think is true. I was a big player. I had an international name, as you said, and then I've transitioned. I don't know any other guys from that community, the big names, who've made the transition effectively. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge process of growth, and I think that I can build a good business teaching guys how to, because once you become very good at women, then you face that next problem. It's like which woman to choose, how to transition, how to let go of, because it's quite addictive too, how to let go of that lifestyle and settle down.
Absolutely.
So that's what my course is all about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. So with this, I'm going to ask you the last question in the interest of time. So you talked about standards, you talked about screening in your last comment. So what qualities you felt were the most important in the woman you wanted to settle with? You're settled now. What were the most important qualities for you? And how did you come up with those attributes? How did you just sit down one day and jot them on a piece of paper? Was it a process? And then why is it very important to have a standard rather than what most guys do? The next girl they date or they find on Tinder or they meet in their classroom, they're just gonna marry her and settle down for life. To find out 5 years later down the road they have 3 kids and they're on the verge of a divorce and losing all their money and losing their health and losing everything in their life. That's huge, that I see with men
Mm.
every day. So would you please mind commenting on that?
Yeah, good question. So I think the number one most important quality is responsibility. Obviously, you've got to, if you're going to get serious with a girl, she's got to be responsible. And the problem is a lot of the good looking, sexy party girls out there that get our attention when we're young, they're very irresponsible and they're very entitled and they're very, men can be the same way, but we're just talking about women. And they look good, but they have no um, sense of personal accountability or responsibility. So, for example, a very good way to test for that is when you tell a girl, no, we're not going to do that, or no, I can't afford that, or no, we're not going to, you cannot have those shoes, or whatever. If they throw a tantrum, that's a red flag. But if they can process boundaries, like, okay, this isn't, we can't do this right now, maybe later, but at the moment, this is not allowed. If they can accept that, then maybe they're a bit mature. So it has to do with maturity. So there's more to say on that, but basically screening for these qualities rather than just how a girl looks is absolutely key. And yeah, then you want also all the fun attributes, someone with a good sense of humor and that you have, or a similar sense of humor, someone that's fun, whatever your sort of superficial personality traits are, you want to find a good match. But fundamentally, my experience, I dated a lot of good looking, irresponsible women and entitled women. Um, and also women who didn't were looking out after themselves first rather than either the relationship or me first. Someone once said, and I think it's true, the most important quality in a woman is how she treats you, not how she looks or what she's wearing or what your friends think of her or whatever. It's like her regard for you personally when you're alone. So a woman who, and I'll give you a quick example with my wife. Like when we were first dating, keep in mind, I dated a lot in New York, as you know, and I met a lot of girls. So I kind of saw a lot of range of behaviors. And I mean, I slept with a lot of girls that I would never date because I was like, this girl's a nightmare. She's and she also, maybe they have bad habits. Like, for example, I don't smoke and they smoked, or they drank too much, or whatever it was, or they ate a lot of junk food that turned me off. So there can be a lot of stuff that you can tolerate for a couple dates that you would never want to make a life with. And
Absolutely.
so I was on maybe a first or second date with my wife, and we were passing the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and I ordered 2 hot dogs. And speaking of bad food, and I was walking down the street, and I had a hot dog in each hand, and she said to me, "Hey, why don't let me hold one of the hot dogs so you can eat the first one?" So she actually allowed me. She saw that I was sort of fumbling with 2 in my hand, in each hand. I ate one and she held the other, and I finished. And then she said, "Okay, here's your second." So she was seeing that I needed help and that I had a need. It's like little things like that. Like she was paying attention to my situation. Whereas a girl who's in her own head, she's like oblivious to the fact that you're struggling or that you're spending a lot of money. Or the classic case is a guy spends money, plans a trip, and then the girl flakes or like throws a tantrum on the trip or isn't appreciative. Like all those things are red flags that it's going to be a very difficult relationship.
Awesome. No, that's key. And I think I see like 90% of the men who are actually married right now, they struggle with that because they just picked the first girl they got their hands on. They did not look at standard. They did not screen her properly. And, you've actually discussed those issues and struggles that come down later down the road. And then their life is nothing but miserable and full of drama.
And it's
And every,
terrible because you're living with this woman who's sort of like your enemy, and and
mm,
you're staying under the same roof. It's so painful. I mean, I see it amongst some friends of mine. Um I will say that every guy should master being single and date a lot of women so he has a large sample size and he can see female behavior running the spectrum. This is a quality girl, this is a bratty girl, this is an entitled, this is a nice girl, this is a respectful woman, whatever. Then I had a lot of experience, so then when I saw quality, I could identify it. The problem is some young guys, especially if they marry early, they don't have a lot of experience. Some girl sort of wows them with flash, whatever, and then like you said, they say I have to be married by 25. They just take the next one, and it doesn't turn out to be a good partnership.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? I think it's very important that you're talking about it because if you have somebody, as you alluded, if you have an enemy living with you in your house, it's going to affect every area of your life, right? Like, I mean, your business, your work, your health, your happiness, everything is like down the fucking drain, right?
Awful, yeah.
Awful. No, so it's, you know, I mean, so a lot of guys, like, you know, who are watching right now, they think, oh, relationship is just a compartmentalized thing in my life. It's a box in my life. It doesn't impact anything. I believe relationship impacts everything. If you're in a shitty
Yeah.
relationship, I've seen this actually in my own family. Your health would be shitty. Your sleep would be shitty. Your happiness won't be there. Your corporate life would suck. Your confidence would be down. Your business, like you're just done, right? If you're a shitty relationship.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
the other thing I think guys make a mistake is they think, oh, um, you know, mastering how to get laid is the hard thing. I can always have a relationship. That's easy. And
Mhm.
on the surface, that's true. It's quite difficult to become a really big playboy, but actually having a high functioning, harmonious, supportive relationship requires a lot of skill, and you need to work on it and develop it. I think a lot of guys think, oh, that's easy. I just, what, you know, I'm the, once I do all my thing, I'll just choose a girl and then that'll just work out. Because, and
Mhm.
that's a whole new set of tools that are necessary, that are very different than pickup or very different than being single.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you've alluded to that. You know how you have to sacrifice and change who you are from that play-by mentality to now you are in a partnership and a collaboration with the person who's actually with you, and you have to be supportive of each other. And you know, on that notion, let's segue into the. You know, you've developed an amazing program, a phenomenal program, where you've taken decades of your experience from a playboy to a man who's actually in a committed relationship, who's in a happy, blissful relationship, where, which I know that only 5% to 10% of the men in the whole world are. 90% of them are struggling. They accept it or not, they are. So you created this program, you created this opportunity to help all these people to improve their relationships and also improve their dating life. So would you please mind talking about No Man Left Behind? What is that all about? What is that opportunity and how it can really benefit the people who are watching at this very moment?
Okay, thank you. So basically, for 10 years I've had a business teaching guys how to meet girls, get laid, get sex, manage a bench of women, and I have there's some new material there that I've, because I still coach a lot of guys. I've been coaching for 10 years, um, and there's some new thoughts that have come up. So in my course, No Man Left Behind, I spend the first 6 weeks. It's a 12-week course, 3 months. I spend the first month and a half talking about the old material, because you have to, before you settle down, you've got to date a lot of girls to find one. So I talked about where to find them, how to convert them, all my old material. Then I have something new called DNT, Decision Node Theory, which is a very technical way to trace your game and diagnose where you're falling down. And if you're not getting laid a lot by a lot of different girls, it's very powerful, DNT. And I talked about that. So I spent 6 weeks there, and then at the break, the second 6 weeks are how to screen for the right girl. Um, First of all, how to think about leaving the game if you're ready to make a change. Why? How to screen for the right girl, qualities to look for in a wife, how to prepare for a long-term relationship and marriage. How do your mindset has to change from dating, and then I have 5 steps to the altar. There's dating, um, courtship, cohabitation, engagement, and marriage. And each of those is a step. Dating is a certain step. Courtship is a very distinct step, series of steps. Cohabitation, when you live together, and then engagement, proposing, and then actual marriage. Because well, are you Indian? Is that right?
No, I'm actually from Pakistan.
Pakistan. I'm sorry. Are there arranged marriages in Pakistan or not?
They are. They are. It
Yeah. So
used to
you
be big time before, but now it's kind of like falling off. But yeah, still, of course, definitely.
so what I was going to say is that actually when you get married and you merge it's actually the merging of two families. It's not so
Yeah.
simple, just a couple. There's like, my in-laws were down here yesterday. You become ingrained in the other person's family and all their culture and their way of doing things and their attitudes and prejudices and all this. This becomes part of the fabric of your life. And so marriage involves much more than just a couple. And I talked about that. And then the last week, I talk about fatherhood and the experience. I mean, it's a crazy experience to have a child. I mean, it's just like this bomb is dropped in the middle of your life. It's wonderful, but so that's the structure of the course, and so it has something for everybody, but it also shows the trajectory for new guys. You know, we have guys on the course that are in their teens and early 20s, and I have guys on the course that are in their 50s who are coming out of a failed marriage and saying, what did I do wrong? So I try to give something to everybody and show them that there is basically, it follows my trajectory. So play hard when you're single, give yourself 5-10 years, smash it, find a good girl, transition, and then start a family. That's been my story.
And you know what, guys? Who could be a better person than Paul to guide you through that? And if you're someone who's, as you said, it's for people who are later in their 40s, 50s, who are coming out of failed marriage and they didn't know what they had to do to make it successful. It's also for guys who are like, in their 20s, early 20s, late 20s, who know they want to get into a relationship, but they need to learn this skill. As you said, meeting women is easier than actually cohabiting with someone and establishing a relationship. There's much more complexity, much more detail involved, as you just alluded to it. So, really, I find this course is going to be valuable. I'm going to enroll in this course for sure, because I know there's tremendous value. Absolutely, because
one thing I want to say, just so we don't think it's only about relationships, I spend quite a bit of time talking about how to be a player, because I think it's always best to come from a point of strength, be very successful with women, have mastery, have a lot of female attention, and then choose a particular girl, as opposed to coming from a position of weakness and saying, I feel so discouraged, whatever woman chooses me, I'll just take the next one. That always sets a guy up for a bad outcome. But if you come from a point of strength, it also allows a woman to respect you, because she knows, look, if I mistreat this guy, he can go back out in the marketplace and find another girl. I'm replaceable. So it's always good if both parties feel like that they don't have to take a lot of shit because they have high market value. So you need to perfect your chops so that you don't feel desperate entering a relationship.
Awesome. And so I've posted the link to join the No Man Left Behind tribe. It's posted right in the caption of this video. And also, guys, if you go right below this video, there's a pinned comment, and the pinned comment has the link which will take you through the payment processing page, and you can learn more about the program and get enrolled. I'm going to get enrolled because there's a lot of value. As you said, it's a transition from your dating area of life to actually your married life, and I think there's going to be tremendous value for everyone. So please go check it out. And on that note, Paul, now people would want to ask you questions, connect with you. What is the best way? How can they reach you out?
Why don't they just hit me up on Facebook? That's fine. You can find you can see about my life, my personal profile. Also, regarding the thing, it's actually an application process. We don't take everyone who applies. So you'll see if you click on that link, which is Paul Janka Inner Circle, there's a couple videos by me explaining, and then there's a couple different ways to engage the project. Our premium product involves one-on-one coaching with me throughout the week, individualized. But we have lower tier products as well. And it's by application. So you submit an application, then one of my team or I talk to the guys. And so that's what I wanted to say. So if you're interested, go to that, pauljankainnercircle.com, and then submit an application, and we'll get in touch with you and talk you through the process. And like you said, I think it's the only thing out on the market where it takes a guy from player to husband or partner, from player to partner, or from hustler to husband, as we like to say. So, or actually another one, from playboy to papa, whatever you want. It's sort of that full
playboy to papa. Yeah. No, awesome. Paul, on that note, thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the precious time. I know we're kind of like running much more than what we expected to be. But
Suleiman,
it was awesome just talking to you and learning from you. And I think there's going to be a lot of value for people. So if you guys are serious, this is a time. Go apply, go through the application process, and if you're a good fit and it's going to work out, then this will change your life. So that's it, Paul. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Suleiman. See you next time.
Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.